Okay, we can get started. Boker Tov, everybody. I think this is class 180, 10 times high on the Siddur for those who are keeping count. Um, I think my count is right. Anyway, okay. So please God, like I wrote, this will be our last. Really, I mean, I've sort of said that before, but this will be our last year in the Amida and directly. So we're sort of not even doing directly. We're doing more overall. Actually, we kind of did finish the Amida, and then please God, next week we'll pick up on the Machzor, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and maybe a little on Sukkot for the next, 6 weeks. As I mentioned last week, and I'll send them by email, starting next week, my share is going to be 20 minutes later, 9:35 Zev. I know that makes you happy because as I mentioned, the summer ends on Tuesday as we go back to school, and my teaching schedule this year, I teach 8:30 to 9:30. So we'll go to 9:35. I can, I'll try to get there as quickly as possible, but between class, so we'll start this year hopefully 9:35 beginning next week. I'll send out an email, but just if you want to make a note of that. Okay, so we'll talk hopefully mainly on Chana. That's where we started last week. But yeah, I spoke last week about, and 2 weeks ago, the Rav's idea, Rav Soloveitchik's idea, the difference between the tefillah of the individual and the tefillah of the community. And we said there's really three types of tefillot. There's an individual prayer. Then there's tefillah b'tzibur, which is an individual should pray with a minyan. And that applies, by the way, equally to men and to women for reasons we haven't gotten into, and whatever women, the traditional view of course, is only men make up a minyan, but davening with a minyan is equally important for a man and for a woman. For whatever reason, historically, women have generally not taken it as seriously as men. In general, they haven't taken davening as seriously. There's no real reason. I mean, I can understand sociologically why that happened, but halachically, there's really no reason for that. And we know in certain communities, especially single women, are very careful going to minyan, but whatever. So that there's tefillah b'tzibur. Once there's a tzibur, then everybody benefits. And we discussed many times because God hears the tefillah of the tzibur more. And then from Soloveitchik added the tefillah hatzibur, the prayer. You're davening with the community, and then there's a communal prayer, and that's what the repetition of Shemona Esrei says. Somebody asked you last week, what's the source? So I can't believe I forgot. I probably read it the night before. I've said I've heard it many times and probably in different sources, but the easiest one is in this book. I don't know if anybody has this book. It came out pretty recently, actually, published by the OU and Ktav. When did it come out? I think just last year. It's not okay, 2023. Okay, two years ago. So this was put up by Jay Goldsmith, who wrote the one of the Koran Sidurim that actually I use all the time. Daily. He wrote for like high school kids. As I said, very interesting. So the Rav himself did not publish very much. Although fascinating, the Rev wrote out every shir. From what I understand, every time the Rev gave a shir, he wrote it out word for word. He didn't read it, but he had it all written. And but he publishing the Brisker tradition, the Soloveitchik tradition, they were very hesitant to publish because publishing sort of has a finality to it. Once you put it in print, that's it. That's you can't turn it over. It says in the Shulchan Aruch, that's the end of the story, and they didn't want that, and maybe that's not, it's not supposed to be that way necessarily, but the Rav did publish articles here and there and different things, but most of the stuff, Ala Tshuva, Shir L'Zeichem, or Rabbi, were other people publishing based on the Rav's writing. The Rav published The Lonely Man of Faith, Halachic Man, five these essays in Tradition magazine a number of years ago, but Halachic Mind, etc. But most of the stuff that's come out, a lot were not actually written by Rav Soloveitchik. And after he passed away, they had thousands of pages of manuscripts of written stuff because, as I say, he used to write down all his shiurim. Sometimes he didn't present it the way he wrote them, and so they put together, the Meyotzar HaRav series, all these books on the Rav. But this is a later book, the Rav on Tefillah. Okay, so I'll just read just a little bit here, right here. It's very nice. Goes through, takes ideas of Rav Soloveitchik. So he writes here, there are two aspects of recitation of Shemon Esrei. The silent Shemon Esrei, recited with a minyan, is referred to as Tefillah B'tzibur. the prayer that is recited with the congregation, when 10 individuals recite the prayer at the same time. On the other hand, Tfilat Hatzibur, the prayer of the community, which takes place during the repetition of Shemon Esrei by the Chazan acts as the emissary for the group and offers up one prayer on behalf of the group assembled. This is similar to the Kohen who offers up one sacrifice on behalf of the entire nation. The Chazan represents the entire group as if they were one entity with one voice. That is what is meant by Tfilat Hatzibur, the prayer of the community as a whole. And then the Rav continues, although the individual Shemon Esrei should be recited silently, the repetition of the Shemon Esrei should be recited aloud. One can explain this difference, as we kind of have, based on the fact that an individual, even if he is as righteous as Moses, see, I always tell you that, the Rav always used to look Moses, Abraham. I think it's a beautiful thing. I know people look at that, that's crazy. He was writing off into a general audience, and he wanted people, even non-Jews. The Lonely Man of Faith was given at a Catholic seminary. The talk. So it's interesting. So, and I'm assuming Jay Goldsmith got it because he's copying some manuscript of the Rav. So even if he is as righteous as Moses, has no right to demand anything from Hakadosh Baruch Hu. That's kind of interesting. Okay, the Holy One, blessed be He. Since he does not, owe, he doesn't translate that. Just says from Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, since he does not owe the individual anything, that is why it must be asked for in a low voice. For the perspective of the supplicant, the request should be made almost under one's breath. But with the covenant with God was made between him and the community, and a covenant denotes a partnership of mutual responsibility. It thus emerges that God indeed has an obligation to the community. This is quasi-heretical, but very beautiful. And it is for this reason the Shaliach Tzibur is permitted to demand from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he fulfill his obligation towards his partner. As such, he prays aloud as one making a claim to him. As we spoke about that the last couple of weeks. We demand, the community demands, and it's in the middle of the Shmona Esrei we say Slichut, and the Rab Ben Tshuva mentions that's why we sing. You know, we mentioned a couple weeks, we sing a happy song. Ay, 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 ay. We have sinned, we have betrayed, we have stolen, right? Ashamnu, Baganu, Gazalnu, right? And we're singing very happy because we're demanding that God forgive us. So that's, if you want to see it in print, that I didn't just make it up on my own, this idea of Tfilat Hatzibur. It's a very beautiful, important concept. And
Rabbi Kelman?
yes,
Yeah.
Yochebed.
Could I trouble you for the page number?
Oh, the page number. Well, no, it wouldn't be hard to find. Do you have the book at home?
Yes, I do actually.
So it's at the end of this one, Esri. It is. I began on page
Oh, great.
271, and then the second part I read. I skipped a little part. Then 273, 270,
Okay.
I didn't
Thank
read the whole thing, obviously. I just excerpt, but it's really a very beautiful. And of course, the chutzpah of man. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. We have chutzpah. We the individual has no chutzpah. The individual comes before God like a total supplicant, but the community we can demand from God. Okay, that's just to
Rabbi
finish up
Kelman,
that point. Yes, Zev.
I don't agree with you. The Shabbat tune does not sound like a happy tune to me. It
I
sounds
don't
like
think
it's
so. I don't know.
like we're crying.
You know, I don't know. I
What kind of happy
maybe
tune is
I
that?
can. Echa Yeshua B'da. That's a sad tune. Da, 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 da. You'll agree. Ah, yeah, 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 yeah. Is a very happy tune. Ah, yeah. You agree? That's a happy tune.
That's not a Shamnu.
I know that. I'm just saying, but
Oh,
that we all
Shamnu,
agree. That's Baruch.
Bogadnu, Gozalnu.
That
That's not
yeah,
happy.
yeah, 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 yeah. I don't know. Okay, I don't know what tune they sang in Germany, but Rav Soloveitchik says he writes this in Anal when he came to Germany, he noticed a few things that they didn't have in when he grew up in Kaslavich, and then they moved wherever they were living after that. When and Warsaw for no, I don't know if he ever lived in Warsaw. Actually, I should know this, but he says first of all in Germany the woman did korim. I don't know what they do in your shuls. It's probably, although it shouldn't be, but you know how these things go. It's probably like a modern Orthodox thing. Like in the modern Orthodox shuls, the women do korim. I know in our shul, most of the women do korim, and probably in the Haredi shuls they don't. Although it's nothing to do with if you're modern Orthodox. Like I don't want to do anything. But so in German, the Rav noticed in Germany, so he gave a whole hesper. I forget the whole thing. In other words, why was the minhag that women don't do korim? So he explained because it says v'chol ha'am. And when we say Musaf, it says everybody who was in the Azara in the courtyard, and the courtyard was he was doing the Ezra Anashim. There was a courtyard for men and a courtyard for women. So that's the origins of the Mechitza come from the Beit Hamikdash. So the Azara Hayukorim Mishtachmim. So only the men. So that's Rav Soloveitchik explained. That was the minhag, I believe, I remember correctly, why in where he grew up in Eastern Europe, only the men would bow for Korban. And I don't know how he explained the minhag, why the women did. Okay, they're in shul already. We're doing it as zecher, whatever. But that that was one minhag he noticed different. And then he noticed that songs they sang were higher. I know the German tunes. I don't know. You go to Yekish shul, like none of their tunes are really happy. They're like they don't know how to do things like that. The Yekas are too. Can you imagine? I don't know. I don't know. It's like in Simchas Torah and Breuer's, but I can't imagine it's just a different mentality. They're so. I don't know if people know what I'm talking about. I'm not. It's very subdued. The Yekish approach, but he said that the tunes were very happy. And that's where he explained why they're happy, because it's the community demanding God forgive us, and therefore we can be happy because we're demanding of God. He must forgive us. So I don't know, maybe it wasn't the same tune, but I don't know. We can take a vote afterwards, then we'll move on. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's not a sad tune. But okay, we'll leave it at that. A different taste for music. I don't know. I don't know, minor, major, and let's move on. But okay, Zeb, I hear what you're saying. Thank you. Okay, let's get back to Chana, where because we're wrapping up Tefillah. This is where it all comes from Chana. So we started talking, and the one thing that came up, I think, last week, right at the end, was being drunk. Right? You cannot daven when you're drunk, and the halacha has I looked it up a little bit. I didn't. It's not exactly clear what defines drunkenness, but we'll show you in 1 second. So let me just show you that, because that, of course, comes from that Eli believed Chana was drunk. That's where the whole thing. That's where our discussion began. Let's see where we're going here. Okay, here. Right. So, V'achtiachshive Eli li shikora mikan sheshikor asur li palel. Because she was standing up. He never saw that people coming. I mean, today that wouldn't be so unusual. A woman standing and rocking back and forth, presumably. That it doesn't say. It does not say she was rocking back and forth. She was talking to her heart, means she's talking to herself. So that's already unusual. Who talks to this? Ruxfat, her lips are moving, but she's not saying anything. The kololo yishma, and you can't hear her. Mikan shesur, like be a kolo, you're not allowed to daven out loud. That's what the Reb just said. The Reb gave a philosophical explanation. She's davening on her own. She's not davening with the minyan here, right? It's forbidden. It's not just that we daven silently, not to disturb our next door neighbor, right? Who's also davening, whatever. But when you daven the silent Shmonetzrei, that's what the Lord says. It's forbidden to raise your voice, and the Rabbi's explaining, because who are we to raise our voice? Raising voice means I'm confident. I can say it with a surety with my rights. And then Eli thought she was nuts. Who I never heard. I never saw such a thing. So who cares if she's drunk? So you learn that it's forbidden for a drunk person to pray. So if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, why is this not? Sima 99, for those who want to look it up, Tzadik Tet, Shata Yain, Din Shatui B'Shikur L'Tfilah, the laws of one who is drunk and who drinks and is drunk. Shata Yain Kedei Revid, if you drink a revid of wine, a revid is whatever, different measurements, 3.4 ounces, let's say. Okay, that's how much you have to drink at Kiddush, half that. Now, it could be, and the Mishnah Berurah already talked about this a little bit, that our wine today is not as strong. Our wine is much more watered down than the wine of the Talmud. So maybe it's more than a reed of wine, because they do, as you'll see already in the Shulchan Aruch, Al Yipalel, you're not allowed to daven ad sheyasir yeno, till you remove, till he, I don't even know what the words are. Thank God I've never been drunk in my life, not on Purim. I don't drink on Purim. Maybe I don't, whatever. You're not allowed to drink even on, okay, forget it. We'll go there another time. So you're not allowed to daven until I forget what the word is, but till you're, are sober, I guess, again. Vim shata yoter, if you drank more than a revit, imhu yachol ledaber lifnei hamelech. So you already see there's a subjective element. If you can speak before a king, would you go and give your presentation? You're going to make an argument in the Supreme Court, or you're going to, make a thing at Congress at a hearing. Would you go if you've had, for 3 cups of wine or whatever? Like, could you speak decently? So if you can, okay, so then it's not so terrible. Imit palel tfilato tfilah. It doesn't say you really should. Like, it seems like you shouldn't have a read of wine, but if you did, you can still daven. But unless it's going to impact you, which is also a very subjective thing. What does that mean? You cannot speak before the king, right? But a lot of halacha is subjective. Im hi palel tfilato toiva. His tefillah is an abomination. That's whoa, whoa, whoa. That's like really strong language. But tzarich l'chzor v'lipalel. And you have to daven over again. And if it's too late, like the time passed, so you daven twice on the next time. So that's just an interesting thing. But like I say, davening, a lot of our halakha, I said, are subjective. In other words, we live in a scientific era, so we want to know. We've mentioned, football, fourth and inches. Do you go for it? Like what was the Super Bowl a number of years ago where I think St. Louis, I forget already, the Cardinal, when the guy was tackled the last play of the game, literally 2 inches from the end zone. And that would have sent the game into overtime. And no, there was like the last play of the game. They mamish. So it's a game of inches. You heard that expression in the Middle Ages. They didn't know from games of inches. They didn't have measurements the way we do. Timing. This comes up. My son gave a shir last week here on timing. When shkia and seder kocham. We don't know. It's like all over the place. And how do you define it? And different places. But today we live in a very scientific era, so we want to know. I always like to say, how much matzah do you have to eat, or how much do you have to eat in the sukkah? Who wants to tell me? What's the measurement? What's the minimum amount of matzah you have to eat at the seder?
Kazayas.
A kazait. What's a kazait?
It's
What's a
either
kazait?
typical olive.
It's not an olive. It's a kizait, like an olive. The kid.
So that's what it says.
Approximately. You have to eat
Approximately an
approximately.
olive.
Right, approximately an olive. Can you imagine today? Today, we've mentioned they come home with the plates, 17 inches by 14 inches, and this, what do you mean? Nobody measured, nobody cared. It looks around. Everyone knows what an olive looks like. It looks more or less. It's like an olive. That's good enough. Kizayit. A little less, a little more. It doesn't matter. So we live in an era that people don't go for that. Okay. Anyway, so but the idea is you cannot daven if you have drunk. And the level of being drunk is not so high. I mean, we may define drunkenness as slightly different. I see somebody's writing something. When his family offered the Maharsham wine on his deathbed, he declined, saying, soon we'll be presenting a shir in Yeshiva Shamala. Wow. Okay. Very interesting. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, let's get to Chana now. Let's go through and we'll see what we can cover the halachot that the Talmud says. Some of these I think are well-known, perhaps are well-known. Some of them I imagine are less well-known. But it's a beautiful Gemara, and let's take a look at the Gemara in Bracha. We started last week. Okay, back here. No, that's we'll get there if we have time at the end. Okay, so how many great things we can learn from Chana. So, and remember, I showed you last week. I don't know why this is doing this. Okay, I showed you last week that Chana really davened twice. Right, a lot of people. If you look at the Haftorah, it's the Haftorah. We're going to read it 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks from now. Right, Rosh Hashanah. So Chana goes up to daven. What the Gemara is going to describe now is her first tefillah. That we don't really know what she said. Right, she used to come up every year, and Elkanah said, "Don't worry, I'm better than 10 children." Fine, and she didn't buy that. Vehimarat nefesh. She was bitter. She was upset. But tipalel al Hashem. She davened on God, not el Hashem. It's very interesting. Al Hashem, like on top of God, as we'll see. Ubachot tivchen. She was crying. Vatidor neder, and she took a vow. God, if you see my pain and affliction, and you remember me, and you give me zera anashim and seed, then I will dedicate him to you. And Shvayaki here, Britalit Palel. She's going on and on and on and on. But Eli Shomer Pin, Eli's watching her, guarding her mouth. He's trying to lip read. V'chana hi medaber. She's talking to her heart. She's totally oblivious to him. Rak shvateha na'ot. That's we saw. Just her lips are moving. Kola lo yishma. Yishamea, your voice will not be heard by Yekshiva. That's what we're saying. And Eli said to her, "How long are you gonna do this? You're standing drunk before God. Hasiri et yenech melach. Remove the wine from you. Like in other words, when we remove the wine from you, get out of here. This is not a place for drunk people. Vatan chama. No, 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 no. You don't understand. Lo adoni. No, no, master. Ishak shatruach. I'm a stubborn woman. Shatruach anochi. V'yain shechar. I didn't have anything to drink, but I'm pouring out my soul to God. I mean, this is how we should do. Pour out your soul to God. What you say is not important. And we know what's tefillah, avodah shabalev, worship of the heart. I mean, when the Gemara says we learn prayer from Chana, this one, who cares what she said? It's not important what you say. What important is how you say it, right? When it comes to tefillah, I mean, it's true, always true. A rabbi can give a great drasha. How he says it, there I'd say it's 50-50. How you say it is as important as what you say. It really is true. You can have a great idea if you don't present it well. One of the reasons I made Jonathan Sachs such a powerful and influential and wonderful voice is how he said it, not just what he said. What he said is also important, but how you say it is very important too. That's a skill that we don't teach enough and we don't emphasize enough. But and that's why the Torah doesn't even the Navi doesn't even tell it. Who cares what she said? It doesn't matter. She's crying out to God. She's praying on her heart. Okay, it says a little bit, but it doesn't really say. He made a bear daliba. Oh, I don't know what she's saying. And she said, no, I'm just going on and on. Beshbacha nafshi. I'm pouring out my soul to God. Do not think I'm an idolater. Belial, we had that last week. Belial, that's a reference to idolatry. I'm angry. I'm distressed. And my discussion, right? That's Yitzchak, right? We say Yitzchak. The rabbis derived that we have to mincha because vayetze Yitzchak lasuach. We in modern Hebrew, sicha means a conversation. And this is tefillah is a conversation. In a normal conversation, the person responds to you. In a conversation in davening, God doesn't respond the same way. We don't see him, but we believe God responds. Sometimes the response is no. Sometimes the response is later. But it's not a monologue. It's a dialogue. Tefillah is a dialogue between man and God because she was angry. She said, "Dibarti et Hena." But Eli said, "No big deal. I get it. I understand. Now, Lechila Shalom, go in peace, etc." Okay, and then so she goes, whatever. And then what we said that there are 9 brachot in the Shmona Esrei because Chana invoked the name of God. That's a different tefillah. That's the second tefillah. That's the tefillah of Perak Beit. But Titpalel Chana Batomar Alatli Biba. This is the more difficult one to understand. Alatli Biba Shem Karni. Alatli Biba Shem Rama Karni B'Shem Rachapi Aloivai. Right. So she's thanking God. There's nobody who's powerful as God. En kadosh kashem, en sur kelokenu, right? Whatever. So this is the tefillah. Hashem emitu mechaye. God gives life. He takes life. Moridu morishu mashir. He makes you wealthy. He lowers the people. He raises people. Mekim me'afardal. I mean, we have that in Tehillim. Mekim me'afardal, but you have it here too. Mekim me'afardal. He rises the who are low from the depths to hide me'ashpot yarim evyon. This is what we say in Tehillim also. So Chana, David got it from Chana, obviously, because Chana is before David. Lo shiv im nidivim, right? This is exactly the last passage we just said in Tehillim in Hallel this past week. Okay, so that's her second tefillah. What the Gemara is going to be commenting on is really her first tefillah, as we'll see now in as we go through this. Okay. So we learned already, you got to move your lips. You can't read when you daven. Fine, good. So Eli said, why are you drunk? So we learn here. So this is interesting. So the Talmud says, okay, one thing we learn is you can't daven if you're drunk. And the second thing is, if you see somebody doing something wrong, you have to rebuke them. And Eli doesn't know who Chana is. How many people came to the Beit HaMikdash to offer sacrifices? 5,000, 1,000 a day. I mean, 10,000, 50,000. I know how many people were coming. So how many people came? So he didn't know anybody. Who do you know? Like he's the guard at the whatever at the Beit HaMikdash. and people are coming and going all the time. And there's no formalized prayer at this point in Jewish liturgy. There's no Amida. There's no. We don't have a formal prayer structure at all. Prayer is totally subjective. So at this woman's davening. So just ignore. What does he care? Just get. So no, the Gemara says when you see somebody doing something wrong, you have to rebuke them. So is that true? By the way, do we do that now? You have to rebuke someone and see doing something
Only
wrong.
if you think it'll help.
Yeah.
Only if you think it's
Right. Only thing it's going to
gonna
help.
bear
So then,
fruit.
obviously, we're not going to give a whole class now on hochacha, but it's important. I always like to point out. I don't know if biblical Hebrew is the exact same, but in modern Hebrew, the word lahochiach means to prove. So when you rebuke someone, you have to prove to them why what you're doing is right. You have to prove, why it's a good idea to keep Shabbos, not to say it's a good idea to keep Shabbos. And the Gemara already says, I'll just point out because I think it's so powerful. This is from like 1800 years ago. The Gemara in Erchin, it's a funny place to have it. It's where all the laws of Lashon Hara are also. Okay. Lotis not achicha, fine. So how do you know when you see somebody miguneh, distasteful? How do they translate unseemly? Fine. So you have to do it. Even if you're going to embarrass him, no. So that is halacha. You're not allowed to embarrass a person when you rebuke, even if they're worthy of rebuke, even in theoretically rebuke, you're not allowed to embarrass somebody in public, or in private either. You're not allowed to embarrass a person. It's in the same verse. Do not bear his sin. That's afilu mishtanim panav. You turn white when you're embarrassed, or you turn red, whatever. So then I'm in Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon already is in the Mishnah. We're talking in the 3rd century. 2nd century, what are you talking about? We're not talking 3rd century. We're talking Rabbi Tarfon is an elder colleague of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Tarfon probably died in the, I don't know, 120, I don't know exactly when, but he died in the first part of the 2nd century. I don't know if there's anybody today. Nobody likes to be told what to do. They say, live in glass homes, don't throw stones, whatever that expression. Remove the splinter, the little wrong you're doing. So you say, meaning the sin you're doing. Amrlo tokarat, get the beam from your thing. You just answer back. Timeni, and then Rav Eliezer ben Azariah, we know that was the one who was appointed after Rabban Gamliel. So we're still in the 1st century. Forget in the 2nd century, maybe the beginning of the 2nd century. We're just after the destruction of the temple. Rav Eliezer ben Azariah. Hameni, I wonder, I don't know if there's anybody who knows how to give rebuke. So that's a very important thing to know today, that whatever, it's a little bit more complicated than just one Gemara. Of course, it doesn't mean you shouldn't say anything. It doesn't mean, okay, so we don't know how to properly rebuke. So therefore, I'm never going to speak out when I see it wrong. It doesn't mean that either. But it means the individual rebuke to tell somebody off, and that you're not allowed to. You're not supposed to. It's very funny. Again, it shows it's a sociological idea. Does anybody know the example the Shulchan Aruch gives of a halacha? You're not supposed to tell people. Like when the Shulchan Aruch discusses, don't tell somebody they're doing something wrong if they're not going to listen. If they don't know from kashrut, from a hole in the wall, they never heard you're going to tell them don't eat the cheese. What are you, crazy? Yeah, never mind. They're just going to look at you like you're nuts. I go to McDonald's all the time. So you're not supposed to tell them. So what's the example they use? Anybody know in the Shulchan Aruch of a halacha you shouldn't tell someone because they're not going to listen? It's so funny. Maybe it's not funny. Maybe because I'm a man, I say it's sociologically illuminating. So the Shulchan Aruch says that on Erev Yom Kippur, so there is a halacha. We assume it's a biblical halacha because the Torah tells us when this Yom Kippur start. The Torah says Batisha be'erev, and the 9th at night, be'erev erev tishbeshu shabbatchem. From night to night, you should, rest, fast. What do you mean the 9th at night? The 9th at night is the 10th. Why didn't the Torah say the 9th? Why did the Torah say the 9th? The 9th at night. The fact that the Torah uses the 9th, so the rabbis derive 2 principles from here. Number one is you have to eat on the 9th. That whoever eats on the 9th is the equivalent of fasting on the 10th. That's an amazing idea. That's much more powerful. Eating, the Torah doesn't want us to fast, right? In Gan Eden, God said, eat from the fruit. Eat from all the fruit, just don't eat one of them, right? Eat. eating, but also you have to serve. But here it means you have to serve God out of joy, out of eating, and out of fasting. It's more important out of feasting, Purim and Yom Kippurim, right? Feasting is better than fasting. So there's a halacha you have to eat on the ninth of Tishrei. The Gemara says, it's as if they fasted for 2 days because we get more reward. The harder something is, the more reward. So it's obviously harder to fast for 2 days than it is to eat and fast. So if we eat, it's as if we fast. We get the reward as if we fasted for 2 days. So that's one halacha. Yom Kippur, the ninth, we don't fast on the ninth, but the Torah is saying, must be that Yom Kippur is two elements: to eat on the ninth, to celebrate the receiving of the Torah on the ninth, right? We got the Torah on Yom Kippur that we have to celebrate with food, and then to fast on the 10th for the sin of the golden calf. Fine. And then the second halacha the Gemara derives is you have to start the fast a little bit early. It's almost the opposite. You can't just, sun sets at 6:52, so at 6:51 and 30 seconds, I'll take a glass of water, to the last second. No, you cannot do that. You have to, how much you have to add? It's subjective again. The halacha doesn't, whatever you want to add 20 minutes. We have our custom that on Fridays we add 18 minutes. That comes from Yom Kippur. The Rambam only discusses it on Yom Kippur. He doesn't say anything on Shabbos. The Rambam does not assume you have to make Shabbos early. Other medieval authorities disagree and say, well, if we derive from Yom Kippur on a biblical level, we assume this is a biblical, it says in the Torah on the ninth. The fast starts on the ninth, so you got to start early. That's Torah. Then the rabbis extended it. You should start Shabbos early, but that's just a rabbinic extension. So you have to start the fast a little bit early. I remember, I think Rav Soloveitchik said they did a half an hour early. Okay, you don't have to do half an hour, 15 minutes, whatever it is. You got to start earlier. Anyways, we start Kol Nidre before sunset. So the Shulchan Aruch says, you're not supposed to tell the woman that they can't eat until the last minute because they're not going to listen to you because the women don't know this halacha. It's kind of sad. I mean, I say it as a sociological comment, but maybe it's a good thing they didn't teach it to you. If you get upset, I don't know. But the example the Shulchan Aruch uses as a halacha, you don't tell people because they're not going to listen, is not to start the fast. It's like a funny thing. Obviously, he's talking in a religious community. I mean, today, if my top list of 100 things that non-observant Jews do, I'm not going to put eating up to the last second on Yom Kippur. I'm worried about people who eat on Yom Kippur, forget starting the fast early, and we got anyways. But that's just an interesting idea that you have to be careful how to give rebuke. If you can, it has to be done with love, and it's right. The next verse is V'afta l'reacha kamocha. So it's true we don't have people who give it. It's better. We often should mind their own business or invite them for a Shabbos meal, and that's much better. Anyways, but here the Gemara is just saying Eli saw something wrong with Chana. And she says something. Okay, let's go back here. Let's see. Let's finish up some of the other very nice halachot here. So Chana answered. So this is another thing. But Tan Chama, no. So he says, so we learn from here, I think, Mikan shenachshad, you're not allowed to let a false accusation stand. If somebody says you're drunk, no, Chana answered, she could have ignored. What do I care? Theft, thick shoulders. So the truth of the matter is, I also don't know how far we go because the Gemara says, "Hane'elavim veinam olvim." People who are insulted but don't respond are like the highest level. I forget where the Gemara says the tremendous reward. In other words, let it fly. So you don't have to respond to every criticism people give you. Every critique. It just keeps roiling the controversy. Just let it slide off you. So when exactly you say that and when exactly you have to respond, I don't know exactly. You can look at it. I maybe have to research it more, but I assume it depends on the impact, right? It depends what they say. If it's a blatant lie, probably also if you can prove it to them. He thought she's drunk. Okay, I'll have a 10-minute conversation. You'll see I'm not drunk. I mean, that's perhaps that's the thing. But sometimes it's better not to respond. But the Gemara says if somebody accuses you of tax evasion or being a crook or doing this, I don't know, you have to respond. Can't just we know that shtika kohoda, when people are criticized and they don't respond. So generally it means they don't have a response. So there is that notion, but sometimes you have to just let it slide. And again, I don't know exactly how to define the parameter of which is which, but that's what the Gemara says here, that Chana responded to Eli. Okay. Al titein avchan
Rabbi
livnei
Kelman,
yes, yochevet.
this is only if you're over on halacha that you're supposed to defend yourself, or I mean, I didn't quite get the language
Yeah,
there.
what do you, I mean? No, it's
Or you're just accused of any
yeah.
negative behavior, even if it's not.
Yeah, I mean, again, don't we don't have to worry everything is in the Shulchan Aruch. I was like, we don't have everything in the Shulchan Aruch. It's whatever. It's just normal. Like I always say, the fifth chelik of the Shulchan Aruch is common sense, right? Everybody knows there are four parts of the Shulchan Aruch. So the fifth part is common sense. You have to know how to apply. But right, a lot of things that's Vasita Yashar Vatov. That's all these meta halachot that we have in the Torah. That's full in Sefer Torah. Actually, Rabbi Finkelstein addressed that topic a little bit last night in his Parsha Shir. Right, the Torah doesn't give us exactly Vasita or Kedoshim to you. They doesn't tell us. So I always like to quote. I'm sure you've heard me quote it before. The Smag. That's and what's his name? Rev Yeshua Falk, 16th century, late 16th century, maybe early 17th century. I don't remember exactly. Poland, wrote the Drisha and the Prisha. He wrote commentaries on the Torah. Also wrote in the Shulchan Aruch. By the way, talking about the Drisha and the Prisha, so he quotes his mother for a famous halacha, and then there's a whole debate. The mother, what the woman teaches us halacha? What a woman know? So he quotes his mother on two halachot. I think that have been accepted. He says, "My mother understood on Shabbos, on Friday night, what do people do? Even though there's not really necessary, but we won't go into that now. On Friday night, people light the candles, close their eyes, and make the bracha because." Once they make the bracha, they don't want to light the candles because making the bracha, they're sort of accepting. It's not really true, but okay, that's fine. That is the custom. Obviously, you're making the bracha. I can light the candles. I mean, you're not accepting Shabbos after the bracha, but fine. That's the minhag that developed, that we light the candles, we close our eyes, and then so we pretend the candles aren't lit, and then we make the bracha and we open our eyes. Oh, I lit the candles with my eyes. Magic. Okay, very beautiful. Nice. I'm not. But on Yontif, that's not necessary. On Yontif, you can use fire. So the Prisha quotes his mother as saying that on Yontif, you should light candles, make the bracha, because it's really better to make the bracha before you light. You're supposed to make a bracha before. So Shabbos, we have this minhag not to do it, whatever, because it looks like we're lighting after we accept Shabbos. So he quotes his mother, you shouldn't do that on Yontif. No? And then people go, what are you quoting your mother for? Let her sew. What a woman know. They just know how to sew. Whatever. It's a different, again, please understand these as sociological comments. Obviously, people who know me know, obviously it's a beautiful thing. I forget the second halacha. He quotes his mother. Okay, Beseder. Listen, the Chavas Yair, Rabbi Yeshua Bachrach, who was chief rabbi in Worms. He was the first one to discuss can a woman say Kaddish, actually. So why is it called Chavas Yair? Chava was his mother, so he called his book the Chavas Yair in honor of his mother, the light of Chava. And then you have the Megillat Esther. That's a commentary on the Rambam. Esther was either his mother or his wife. Whatever. You have a lot of these
Isn't the
books.
Maharsha, the Aleph is
Oh,
also
the Marsha is Rav Shlomo Eidels, and Eidels was his wife's name. He took his wife's name. Why take his wife's name? Because when they got married, his wife was very wealthy. His mother-in-law said, "Mr. Marsha, Mr. Shmuel, you sit and learn here, and I'll support you, and you can write your commentaries on the Talmud." No, so without his mother-in-law, he would have never written the commentary on the Talmud. So as Thanksgiving, he took his wife's name. There's no halacha. I remember Rav Schachter telling us. I mean, this is something lots of us don't do today. I mean, I think depending what generation you're from, Rav Schachter told us it doesn't matter what name you take. You don't take your wife's name, take nothing wrong. No, nothing wrong. You want to take your wife's name, say why should the wife take the husband's name? Maybe the wife is a more prestigious family, whatever. But he said they should have the same name. He said, if Ayula Basarcha, the husband and wife should be like one. They shouldn't have, she keeps her maiden name. Okay, so today I don't think, okay, so whatever. Obviously, it's not a halachic, I don't think it's a halachic thing, but that's, yes, the Marsha took his wife's name because of the support. So it's a beautiful idea. Anyways, back to what we were saying. What did you just ask? You just asked me about, right. Anyway, so what does he say? It's so the Drisha, the Prisha says that when you do halacha, that the job of a posek It's actually this week's parsha. It's amazing how everything ties in. Wow, amazing. He says that you have to rule. The posek has to. It sounds reform, but just listen. But you have to rule lefi hamakom ulefi hazman. The posek, the rabbinic authority, has to answer questions according to the time and the place. And then I've mentioned many times, two people can ask the exact same question, get different answer. But here you have one answer in Toronto and another answer in Memphis, because and for sure in Israel, it's a different community, and different communities. There's so much subjectivity in halakha. So he says the posek has to write the fi hamakom according to the time and place. And then he asks something amazing. You know where he derives that from? This week's parsha. Says this key palemim chadavar bein tam nadam bein din adin. When you have a question, you don't know what to do. But come to avalita, you go to the Beit Din Hagadol, and the Beit Din says, "Lo tasur min hadavar asher yagidu lecha yaminu small." This famous verse from this, we'll read it tomorrow morning. That we shall not veer from what the rabbis tell us, right or left. Right, you shall not veer right to the left. This is rabbinic authority, and there's a whole debate. What if the rabbis are wrong? Not for now. Another shir. So Rashi has a very difficult, very famous, but it's actually a very difficult comment. It probably isn't correct, but that's not for now. Rashi, anyway, who remembers Rashi's famous comment on, I shouldn't say that, Rashi's comment on Lo tasur min davar sheyigidu lecha yaminu
Even if
small.
they tell you the
Afilu
right is the
im
left and the left
yagidu
is the
Right.
right.
lecha,
Afilu
right.
omrim lach al yamin shu small. Even
Small
if they tell
shehu
you your right is
small.
left and your left is right, you have to listen to them.
Right.
So that's a big debate, because we have a whole masechet in Shas called Horius. What happens when the Beit Din makes a mistake? Halachically, Rashi is not correct, actually, but we won't get into there. And a lot of people say it's a mistaken manuscript. It doesn't matter. Probably you show me. There are a lot of people who write about this. That's not the point. So the Smag quotes the Prisha and the Jewish quotes this halacha. In other words, lefi hamakom lefi hazman. So sometimes it looks like we're changing what it says in the Torah. It says, that's what Rashi means. Afilu omrim lechal yamin shu small. Even when your right is left and your left is right, it's not. It's that because the halakha changes. Lefi hamakom lefi hazman. So that's afilu al yamin shu small. So this week's parsha tells us the importance when you have to listen to the rabbis. Why? So why do you have to listen to the rabbis? By mimim, go to the rabbi, look in the Shulchan Aruch what it says, and that's the end of the discussion, right? That was always the criticism of codes. There's people who don't like this, and I don't have to follow the Shulchan Aruch. I don't have to follow the Shulchan Aruch. I mean, I don't mean you have to follow the halacha, but I don't agree with the Shulchan Aruch. I don't, So there was always that. There's always this tension that exists today. Today, we're much less prone to disagree. That's what I said at the beginning. Rav Soloveitchik didn't want to put things into print. He didn't want a finality to it. There should be this flexibility, but there still is. It still exists for sure in one-to-one when you discuss with rabbis, very learned rabbis. They know this, and they know when. So it says in the Mishnah Berurah, nu. So it says in the Mishnah Berurah, okay. We don't follow the Mishnah. It's not the end of the world. That's fine. And whatever. So people who don't know, they get all excited. That's what I've said many times. I'm totally against translating the Mishnah Berurah into English. No, I'm not just. I don't want to pick on the Mishnah Berurah. All these books. It's ridiculous. And let them learn other things. If you don't know the Mishnah Berurah in Hebrew, that's not a book for you to read. Come on.
Rabbi Kelman,
Yes.
I heard something really interesting this week about Yaminu Small. And what they said was that if we're sitting opposite each other,
Ah.
then
My
my
right
right
is your left.
Yes, that it's the idea of perspective.
Uh-huh.
That
Okay,
at the
very nice.
same time, we can be talking about
Yeah.
right and left.
So
That's a
that's
perfect example.
right. So that's exactly how Rav Shechter explained to us, Elu ve'elu, Divrei Elohim Chayim, right? Both of these what do you mean both of these are living God? And they're right. But they say the opposite. So it's all perspective. It says, and the way I remember he described it, two people can looking at a room. So if you're looking from this angle, or you're watching a lahavdil, you're at a baseball game. So if you sit behind home plate, or you sit in the bleachers, or down the left field line, you get a different perspective on the game. It's the same game, it's the same ball, it's the same pitch, same everything. But where you look at it from is, and where you look at it from is lefi hamakom, lefi hazman. It's all this stuff. It's all this subjectivity. Of course, where we grow up influences our halacha. That's why we have a Mara de Atra. right? That's why the rabbi, what goes on today is really terrible. People send their shot to some. I've spoken many times. The internet, I hate it. No, the internet is no. Internet's phenomenal for information, but not for psak halacha. The rabbi has to know you personally. I disagree with all these. I mean, certain questions, of course, but that don't affect. But anything that has any personal thing to ask on the internet is ridiculous. That's not how it goes. And you know what? And I haven't quoted this. I know of ever here, but I remember, when years ago, when I was a rabbi of a shul here in Toronto, Zev, of course, remembers was so one of the young women at the time, now she's married with a whole bunch of kids, Baruch Hashem, but at the time she was single, she made aliyah, so she sent me a question, Rabbi, can I eat gelatin? Can, like the chocolate bars in Israel eat gelatin? A lot of them have gelatin because they rely. I think they still do. I don't really know. The Rabbanut in Israel relies on Rav Chaim Ozer Krasinski. That's someone worthy to rely on. That gelatin is so chopped up, is so different from its original form. It's kosher. You don't need kosher gelatin. And the OU and here the COR do not rely on that psak, and they don't. So she's asking me, now she comes to Israel because she never ate gelatin. Now can she eat gelatin in Israel? So I told her, I said, first of all, you live in Israel, so you get yourself an Israeli rabbi. It's very, very nice. Thank you for asking me. I said, and then I told her, I said, of course, you know how that goes. You give, and then I said, listen, just to know, I'm not telling you what to do, but it's not like you have a minhag not to eat gelatin. You didn't eat gelatin because anything you ate, you only ate food that had hashgacha. So here they didn't have gelatin, but it wasn't like I learned the halacha. I said, I don't rely on gelatin. So that probably is something you can change. I would think that's not your minhag not to eat gelatin. I live in Canada. I don't eat gelatin. I live in Israel. The Rabbanut says, I don't know what they do today, but says it's kosher. It's good. It's kosher. Things change. The minhag changing. So anyways, but that's what he says. Lefi hamakom u'lefi hazman. That's all you mean. True, small you mean. Okay, let's get back to Chana. We only have 15 minutes left. But okay, Chana's great. What are we? Okay. Okay. So I'll detail. The Amar Rav Elazar, this amazes me. Come l'shikor shemipal kilu oved avodah zarah. That's we just said before davening. This is already awful. What do you mean avodah zarah? Remember, avodah means I'm serving, but it's strange. It's a little bit off. The Torah makes a big deal. I've said many times. Rav Kook's yortzeit was two days ago. So Rav Kook has avodah zarah is avodah. Avodas are just a little off kilter. You want to worship God, halavai. We said we have more avodas are. Our problem is we don't have any avodah. At least avodas are. They're worshiping God, but it's foreign. So the Torah doesn't like that at all. But it's so I'm drunk. It means I'm not totally focused on my worship of God. So one who davens when they're drunk, keilu. It's not the same thing. Obviously, when the Gemara says, like I said, you embarrass somebody, it's as if you killed them. It's not murder. It's keilu. It's as if. It's not the same thing. It is. It's as bad as it is to embarrass somebody, as bad as it is for a drunk person, that's not as bad. To daven, it's not really it's keilu, it's as if there is an exaggeration here. Of course, there's hyperbole. We're stressing the important. It says, we pointed out, Belial, that's last week's parsha, the Ir Nidachat, is Yatsu Anashim B'nai Belial, or the Meidiach. Okay, let's go on. Okay, then Bayan Eli, remember Eli told her, no, go in peace. So he says, when you're wrong, you have to admit it. It's very hard. I accused you of something and it's not true. So I have to appease you. I have to say, please forgive me. Thank you. Be well. Not just say forgive you, give you a blessing. Below odd, just appease him. Sharich levarcho. And he says, like, God should bless you and answer you. Okay, now let's get to the fun part. Okay. But Tidor Neder, so Chana took a vow, Hashem's Tzvot. So the Gemara says she was the first person to call God Tzvot. Okay, we'll that be up for another time. The first person, how do we translate Tzvot in English? Chariot? I don't know how they translate it. God Tzvot. Asher bata Chana. I'm sorry, host, right? God of hosts. I don't exactly know what that means. I didn't focus on that. I don't know. What's the significance? Who cares? But the Gemara says she was the first one to call Tzvot. I'll have to take that up another time. Fine. So the Chana says, Ribona Shalola, maybe through power. Mikol Tzivei Tzvaot Shebarata. That's from all the host of hosts that you created. It's so hard to give me one child. They got 8 billion people in the world. So we'll have 8 billion and one. Well, what's the big deal? So, and then the Gemara says, this is like you have a king makes a big banquet. They have this in Toronto. You have all the food after a wedding. They're homeless people, starving people, and they throw it after the wedding from 5,000 pounds of cake and everything from the food, right? Bani, and the poor person, you didn't pay, you weren't invited. I'm tamely percent. Give me a piece of the sweet table. It's going to go in the garbage anyways. Veloishke, they get out of here. The chak v'niknas, so he runs to the king. Amarlo, the melch mikol suda. You made this whole big party. You can't give me one piece of bread. So that's what Chana says. It's interesting how the Gemara equates the two. Okay, you can look this up later. This is Brachot 31b. So this is amazing. This is what I mean when I say the chutzpah a little different from Rav Soloveitchik, because this is not with the minion. Okay, that doesn't really bother me. It's but still, I'm Rabbi Lesser. So what a Chana Imra O Tira, if you'll see, right? So Rabbi, what did Chana say? He says, okay, Imra O, God, if you see my yearning to you, my prayer, and you answer me, great. If not, you'll see. Either God, either you see or you'll see, or watch me, God, watch me what I'm going to do to you. This is amazing. So Chana says like this. This I imagine is not as famous. This they probably don't teach you so much in high school. I will go and Stira, I will go alone with another man to look like I'm having an affair. I'll be quiet. I'll be in private. I'll have yichud with another man who I'm not married to. So that's a sotach. So Elkanah will accuse me of being an adulteress, and I'll drink the water. And you know what it says in the Torah: if the woman's innocent, v'nikta v'nizrazer, she'll have children. So is that what you want, God? V'yata said Torah plus there. You'll make the Torah like a big joke. And if you don't give me kids, you show the Torah is a lie, because it promises in the Torah that if the woman is innocent, she won't have a child. So God, either you give me a kid, or I'm going to have to pull this trick on you. It's amazing. I just really. So the Gemara has a whole discussion. Whoa. That only works if what it means is she will have a child. Some say no, it doesn't. Without getting into here, here's the debate. The Tanya Benikta, if she was clean, if she was innocent, she'll have seed, she'll have a child. Melamed, so it teaches us if she was an akarav, she was barren, she'll have a child. Nivkad, by Hashem Pakad Atzara, she'll be remembered. Divrei Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Akiva says no, because of this trick. Rabbi Akiva's worried. Yalchu kol al tarot. All the barren people will go and they'll pretend to have an affair with somebody. V'zo kilkalad. So v'zo shalo kilkalad. The woman who didn't have an affair will be remembered. So it says no. So it says not the kid. It means if you had pain, it was hard to have, the pregnancy was a difficult pregnancy, it'll be less difficult. Then the bracha is not so great. I mean, Rabbi Shmuel sounds more right. Okay, big deal. I mean, it's not nothing, but that's the whole thing. Like the Torah makes a big deal that she won't have so much child labor, or ksarim yoledet aruchim. White, small, they'll be tall. So this is something I guess we would consider inappropriate to say today. Black, they'll be white. Okay, it's a different world when there are no. But I assume that's what it means. I don't know what I don't. Right? She'll have white children. The whole thing doesn't even make sense because that's based on genetic. But fine, whatever that means, fine. So that opinion said no, it won't work. Okay, that's a debate. But that's what Chana said to God. God, if you don't give me a kid, I'm gonna go pretend I'm having an affair and I'm gonna get a kid. And then Chana said to God, it says the word Al tishkach et amatech. Don't forget your servant. And she said three times with Amatech. So the Gemara says that's the three sins, three special mitzvot for a woman that are nida, chala, and hadlaka. And there, that's a chena. That's right. The Sephardic term of chena is chala, nida, hadlaka, and there. And I observed all three of them appropriately, so I should be blessed with a child. Now she's demanding of God, like a child. Okay, now my favorite one in a sense, v'natati lama zera anashim. I will give you, it's a funny expression, zera anashim, offspring of men. So the Gemara says, what does zera anashim mean? Well, it sounds like she wanted twins, zera anashim. I don't know. Amarav guvra beguvrain. I want a great person. A man among men. Gavra beguvrin, right? Right? How do they translate it? I think that, right, a man among men. Ushmul lamar Zerah Moshe. This is very interesting, like already prophecy. Shmuel, her child, will anoint two kings, Shaul and David. So I want somebody. I want make someone great, but more specifically, Shmuel, Rav, it sounds like they're arguing, but Rav says, I want a great man. And Shmuel says, someone who's going to be great spiritually, he's going to be the one to set the kingdom of the Jewish people in motion. Rav Yochanan says someone who's as great, they're all saying similar things, as great as two people. Umayninu Moshe Aaron, as great as Moshe and Aaron combined. It'd be as great. The Kuwait qualities of Moshe and Aaron. Shenemar Moshe, we say this every Friday night. No, Moshe Aaron b'kohanav, u'Shmuel b'korei Shmo, Korim Hashem hu yaneim, right? Isn't this from on the Chunarana? Moshe Aaron b'kohanav, u'Shmuel b'korei Shmo. So Shmuel's equal to Moshe and Aaron. And my favorite one, I think the beautiful idea, the rabbis, the majority, these are Shmuel, Rav Yochanan, okay, individual rabbis. But the rabbis as a group said, no. Zera shemuvla bein anashim, someone who is muvla, I say muvla, swallowed among other people, is not noticed. So he's not noticed. He's part of the crowd. I want somebody normal. I just want a normal kid. Don't give me special kids. I don't. You become too wealthy. It's special is not good. You know how many problem kids have from kids who come from special families? You're super bright. It's an amazing halacha, right? An offspring, a man who would be inconspicuous. So that's a good word. Not stand out in any way. That's a beautiful idea. That's what you just want a normal, regular kid, not a genius. Not a, I like to tell the story. Passed away, Dr. Judah. You remember him, Zeb, the Torontonians? Dr. Tibor Judah he was a urologist who knew Shah. He was an amazing Talmid Chacham. Actually, he met his wife. He married Rabbi Hirschsprung from Montreal, the famous Rabbi Hirschsprung's daughter. And I know how he was in his 30s, and he was single, and Rav Hirschsprung came to give a shiur in Toronto, and Dr. Judah went to the shiur, and after she went over to him and started asking him shaylas questions, and Dr. Rav Hirschsprung goes, wow, who is this guy? It's unbelievable. And he looked in and said, he married his daughter, very nice guy. So I remember when my wife was pregnant with our oldest, so we were at an event, and Dr. Judah comes over to me and says, being pregnant with the first kid is the best time in life. You've got a nuclear physicist, a Talmid Chacham, which you got everything rolled into one, because all the dreams the person has. And then when they get born and they become like regular kids, it doesn't quite work that way. Okay, I don't know anyways, but the rabbi said, I just want a normal kid. I just want a normal kid who doesn't stand out anyway. Such a amazing thing. That's what the rabbis say, right? Lo aroch, lo gutz, lo katan, lo idlem, lo shachor, lo just lo chacham, lo tipei. I don't need a brilliant son. Being brilliant comes with its own problems. Listen, we need some brilliant people. You need a Vilna Gaon every once in a while. But okay, just let's see. One last thing I want to do. Okay, it's really beautiful Gemara. This is how we have to daven. Okay. Yeah, Chana medaberet aliba, ali skelebash. This she was talking about her heart. That's okay. So she said, God, everything you created for a purpose. Einaim l'rod, eyes to see. Osnaim lishmoa, ears to hear. Chotem l'riach, the nose to smell. Pe l'daber, a mouth to speak. Yadayim l'asot b'mlacha, hands to work. Raglaim, so I can walk. Dadim, breast, lahanik behem, so I can nurse my children. Dadim halalu, lama tatali ali. Why did you put these breasts on my heart? Lola nik behem, if I can't feed my child. Tainly ben. I just find the kitovim do the power and the beauty. It's not like right. It's a little bit chutzpahdik, perhaps, maybe, but that's the Gemara. The Gemara began the discussion how much we can learn from Chana. They don't say, "Oh, Chana did it, we can't do it." No, that's not what the Gemara says. Look at all the great things we can learn from Chana. So we can learn from Chana how to daven with passion and to your heart. And yeah, you can look drunk. You gotta protect yourself. But you can demand from God. That's what I'm saying. It's a little bit not like Rav Soloveitchik said. Like Rav Soloveitchik said, only the community can demand. No, that question doesn't bother me so much. And first of all, Rav Soloveitchik, a lot of his ideas, are very original. Not everybody agrees with. Just because Rav Soloveitchik says something doesn't mean it's Torah Misinai. But whatever. I mean, listen, Rav Soloveitchik, we're all here because of Rav Soloveitchik. I teach in chat. There would be no chat without Rav Soloveitchik. He was the first person to say you could be a religious Jew and an American at the same time. To us, this is normal, but in 1930, this was not normal at all. You had to choose, and every 98% of people chose to be Americans and not to be observant. He really, it's hard for us to imagine that two generations ago, it was next to impossible to be a religious Jew in America. Next to impossible, and everybody had to work on Shabbos, and it's just that's why all the rabbis in Europe were against Jews going to America, But obviously, in retrospect, they were wrong. I mean, wrong. They made a terrible mistake, unbeknownst to them, not their fault. But they're not prophets. Rabbis are not prophets. Anyways, so I just think these are some of the beautiful things we can learn from Chana. It's really, I think it's maybe a nice way to sort of wrap up. We could do it at the beginning, the end. Chana, how we daven, and the most important thing is, like we say, not what you say, but how you say it. And it's hard. Davening is a really hard mitzvah. So just what else do we say? And by the way, davening with Siddur, everything else is because we daven. Most people, I don't know. We had this discussion a few months ago. I find I daven better with the tzibur. I remember some of the women, especially, were pushing back on me. No, they go to shul. They're behind the mechitza. They don't feel part of the congregation. They daven better b'yichidus. Okay, there is something to that. I hear that is an interesting question. Somebody feels they daven better individually. Can maybe sometimes it's better to daven. I don't know. The Gemara says when Rabbi Akiva used to daven at home, he used to start in one room, go to the other room. There's an idea. Sometimes they get done with more kavana. But anyways, I'll just add one other interesting idea that we talked about communal prayer. There is one to maybe make this more like real. There is one other area, I think, that we have this idea that we do all the time without even batting an eyelash, that it's communal and not individual. And that's basically Kriyat Torah. When we listen to it, there's no individual obligation to hear Parshat Shavua. This is an obligation on the community. Their communal obligations, their individual obligations. So the community has an obligation to read Kriyat Torah. Moshe made a takana. Moshe, Ezra were the ones who established Kriyat Torah. And it's nice if you become part of the community. That is the community that reads the Torah. But there's no individual obligation. How do I, except for Rav Chaim Soloveitchik. But forget Rav Chaim. Everybody doesn't assume like that. Well, how do I know that? Because what happens when you miss Minyan on Monday? So you miss Minyan. So big deal. So you don't hear Kriyat Torah. And you walk out of shul, you miss an aliyah on Shabbos. So you missed an aliyah. The world won't come to them. What's a personal obligation? Megillat Esther. That's why everybody knows they got to hear the Megillah. They'll read it 4 times in shul, and then they'll go to your house and they'll read it. And the woman, the later, and then Kriyas Megillah, it's an individual obligation that everybody has to do. Kriyas Torah is not an individual obligation, so you missed it. Okay, it's nice. It's nice to go hear it. I'm not saying to go miss it, but that's a communal obligation. That's really the Rabbi saying. There's communal prayer. It's very nice, but strictly speaking, and that's why I've said before, it's very difficult to say you're obligated to daven with a minyan. I've mentioned that before. That according to most, there's no obligation. It's a hidur mitzvah. It's nice, and maybe your tefillot are listened to more. But if you're reading daven way better individually, so maybe for you it is better sometimes to daven individually, not b'tzibur. It's not an actual obligation like it is to shake a lulav that you have to daven with the minyan. It's a nice thing to do. There's an obligation you have to daven. But the minyan, that's a sort of a separate idea. Okay, I think we'll stop here. Okay, so the Chana, right, about a little bit of chutzpah,
Don't we list it to daven Shachris, isn't Ein Lahem Shiur?
Yeah, what about Elim Shir? Tefillah
Right.
is not one of them. Hashkamat Beit HaMedrash
Right.
Shachri Farvid. So what does Hashkamat Beit HaMedrash mean? What's a Beit HaMedrash? That's not learning. I assume that's learning Torah.
No, but Shachris. Oh, so that has nothing to do with davening.
You know what? I should look into it again. I forget now.
Shachris. I mean, that sounds like davening.
No, you have to daven. You have to go in the morning and the evening to learn Torah.
Oh, okay. Then I totally misunderstood it.
By the way, I just listened. I wasn't there. I couldn't come, but I listened yesterday to Rabbi Nagain share on the mission. It was really fantastic. I mean, that's why I asked to speak. I don't know if it's such a different approach. So he spoke about he's doing 4 classes. So one Mishnah Rosh Hashanah, one is Yuma, and one on Sukkah. But yesterday or Wednesday he did on Brachot, the introduction, the Malchut of Hashem. The first Mishnah is according to the Shema. He beautifully explained what B'shofacha Ukumecha meant. He said, B'shofacha, in the morning and the evening, says the Gemara says, when they finish Shema, forget the Kohanim coming back. That's one thing. The Mishnah is when you come home to eat. It's all about eating food when you come home. So he said, basically, we live life. We have a private life and a public life. And the mitzvah of Shema is to accept God as Yoke of Heaven in our private life and in our public life. B'shofacha ukumecha, when we come back into the house. But that mitzvah is talking, that pasuk is specifically talking on Talmud Torah. So that's why you have to learn Torah day and night. So I'm assuming Hashkamat Beit HaMidrash, Shachri Arvit, you have to go and learn. But when it's interesting, Hashkama Arvit, like, waking up. But so it could also refer to Tefillah because they daven in the Beit Midrash too. Yeah, it's a nice thing. But when they say Elim Shilim Shir means there's no measure. You go to shul once a year, so you go Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. I mean, really, that's what it means. When it's Elim Shilim Shir, it means it's not a. I mean, I guess there is an obligation on a certain level of pay. So you get some reward in this world and maybe reward in the next world, and that's Hashkama Beit HaMidrash Shachrit. Yeah, again, but it's not an actual obligation to daven with a minyan. I don't think it's the proper thing to do. And I began my shir by saying even woman, it's proper, but it's proper.
Right.
And okay, if you can do it, it's a wonderful thing to do. But I agree. Listen, I'm with this. Listen, we have a halach of a mechitza for whatever reason. That's a discussion we haven't had yet. But you can make the mechitza. There's a mechitza and there's a mechitza. You can make the mechitza like in the modern shuls, like in New York at HAR. I've seen it here in the village shul in Toronto, where you walk in the shul, you don't know what's the men's section, what the women's section is. So that's the way we should make a modern shul. I think that's how. I don't think they should have. Maybe you can't daven in the shul today without that. Okay, I'm not. I don't. That's going a little bit too far. But the idea is to make the men and women feel equal. Yes, certain things the halacha demands X, Y. So for Kohanim, Levim, I'm not a Kohen, so I never get the Kohen aliyah. Okay, that's the way it works. But you can have the bima split in the middle. That's how they do it. These right. The Sri Deyesh, Rav Yechiel Yaakov Weinberg has an amazing tshuva. Remember, I came up with my daughter with the first bar mitzvah. You're not allowed to make a bar mitzvah greater than a bat mitzvah. When Rav Moshe finds he's against bat mitzvahs, it's a feminism and whatever. Different. He was against bar mitzvahs too, actually, Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe said that my father used to say, too much bar, not enough, mitzvah. But shikur, right? Going back to how we started our shir. But I think in that sense, I won't say he was wrong. I was about, you know what? It kept, even though it was a joke and often 13 meant the end of their Jewish education, it gave them something. Families to join shuls. I mean, it is something, even though. And then there's to build on that, but bat mitzvah, we live in a different world. I don't know what Moshe would say today. At the time, he was against bat mitzvahs, but like I say, he was against bar mitzvahs too, really. But the Sri Deyesh writes it would be inappropriate. That's haflaya, it's discrimination. You're going to treat your sons better than your daughters. You're going to spend more money, make a fancier bar mitzvah than a bat mitzvah, and you can't do that. And he says the mechitza has to be very friendly. So this is all lefi hamakom ulefi hazman. That a posek, hey, you have to know when you're living, who you're living. Yes, I agree. If I'm living in Mei Sharim and I say that throw stones at me, okay, because in Mei Sharim it's a totally different world. Or Bnei Brak, not just in Mei Sharim, but fine. Or Lakewood, I don't have to go so far. But we're not in Lakewood. We're different, and even in Lakewood, I don't know what goes on today in Lakewood, but I imagine there's some desire of even in the Haredi world, women have desires for more participation in certain elements. Okay, any other questions? Rav Yoel Circus, his mother's name, I don't know, is that true? I didn't say it by Rav Yoel Circus, I said it by the Maharsha. That the Maharsha Eidels took his mother's name, but it could be there are others too. I'm just not aware. The Bach, Rav Yoel Circus, I don't know. Was that his mother's name? If somebody knows, we can look it up. Oh, I see more. I didn't see the question. The woman do Korim in Charedi Shul. So thank you, Yocheved. Okay, I did not know that. Shem the melody is a major key, usually associated with positive, right? That's what I was saying. Feeling well, and while maybe happy is too much of a stretch, but in the right direction. Yes, thank you, Steve. I think that is correct, right? It's in a major key, and that it's not exactly the happiness of some other songs, but correct, it's that direction. Because yes, we demand, but it's a little bit. From the fact that Eli thought Chana was drunk because she was praying silently, doesn't that show that the standard prayer was to say it out loud? Hmm. I don't know. Maybe the standard was not to pray. That was clear. You're raising a fascinating, important point. Obviously, Chana was doing something different that nobody had done before. So you want to say that people coming, I'm assuming they weren't praying, or they weren't praying as much as Chana. Like she was going on and on and on. Maybe it was that they said a little bit, and you're right. And it could very well be that people prayed out loud, and we derive the fact that you shouldn't have been out loud from Chana. But that's a very good point, and you're right. That clearly Chana put a new paradigm. That's what the Gemara says. Look what we can learn from Chana. I mean, before Chana, we didn't know this. Without Chana, we wouldn't know all these things. We wouldn't know how to daven. We know from the heart. We would know that you can, threaten God, so to speak. God, if you don't do this, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull a fast one on you. I'm going to pretend to have an affair. Oh my gosh, right? Or but to pour out my heart to God and say, I haven't sinned, and God, come on, you can do so much. Why'd you create me? Why'd you create breasts for women if you're not going to give me a kid? I mean, that's what the Gemara says. She said that. So it's really powerful, and we learned that only from Chana. Okay, when the Farsham that we already said, his deathbed, he declined, he would be presenting Shin Yeshiva Mela. Okay. Yeah, okay, so I don't know. All right, so like I said, next week, please God, I'll send an email 9:35, because please God, I'm back in chat. I'm kind of, the summer's long. I say I wish I'd be happy to go back to school a week earlier and get a week off in February. The school years, I don't get enough breaks. During the summer, it breaks very long, but back to school on Tuesday, back to chat. So I said my schedule. So please go. We'll have a share 9:35 for the hour. Okay, and then Machzor this week, of course. Rabbi Moshe Shulman is starting his class on Yonah, and Shuli Mishkin is starting her series, which Holy Places, Holy Days. So that's on Thursday. So we look forward to learning with you. And if you want something a little different, I would recommend Rev Nagain share, like on the Mishnah. It's not something we normally do. It's really very fascinating approach to the study of the Mishnah, very much like the approach today, how we study Tanakh in Israel, this sort of literary approach and seeing the structure and doing that same methodology a little bit in the Mishnah. Okay.
I found out that he's a very interesting guy, Reverend. Again,
Yes.
My brother knows him well. My brother's kids all went to Otniel. And also, it seems that he's mishpacha of a cousin of mine in Efrat too.
He's a Kanak. He's Rabbi
Yeah,
Kanak from the
right.
OU's nephew. And when
Right.
he came to Israel, he actually mentioned that. And
He mentioned it at the beginning of the
he
shir.
didn't mention his uncle, but he said,
No,
my
he
name is
mentioned it at the
Kanak.
beginning of the shir. Yeah.
Right, and when I went to Israel, he sort of made he has a PhD in philosophy. He said humanist. Yeah, he's very interesting. Obviously, I've never met him. Personally, I had heard of him but obviously he has some very liberal ideas in terms of he has this whole thing, and I know talk and in which you don't picture that with someone living in Othniel. He's a Rebbe in Othniel, but like I say, a PhD in philosophy from Hebrew U. So I'm throwing out there. It's someone new. All the other speakers, people have heard more. So that's Wednesday at 1:00 is his shir. So, anyways, okay. Thank you, everybody. Shabbat shalom. Be
Have a
well.
good Shabbat. Shabbat
You too.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Okay, be well. Shabbat shalom.
But